Hey, we're back. Great discussion so far this morning. A lot of topics on the table. We're going to keep it rolling now. Bring on a special guest who will add his perspective, and he joins us on Tuesdays. He's one of our Ringside All-Stars. He's a publisher of WGSO-Bayoubuzz.com. His name is Steve Sabludowsky, and we're visiting on the airwaves, also online, and on Bayoubuzz.com via Google Hangout. Steve Sabludowsky, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, and how are you doing today?
Very good. You're sounding better. Seems like you have your mic issues worked out, so sounds good, and welcome aboard. So,
thank you. Yeah, it was a headset. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yes, keep our fingers crossed, knock on wood, hopefully.
That's right.
No issues for this broadcast. So tell us a little bit, if you could, Steve, about the debate last night. I'm sure you were watching it. We were watching it here. A lot of our listeners were watching it. Any thoughts?
I thought both of them did very well. I wish Cassidy would have been there. I think that it was a lively debate. It wasn't like the board job that we saw last week or the week before. And so I think there was some very interesting points made by both candidates. So I enjoyed it, and I hope that tomorrow that they will allow the candidates be able to do what Channel 4 did, and that is to respond to answers made by other people, the other candidates.
We're visiting with Steve Sabludowsky. Our talk line 504-556-9696. The debate last night, of course, on Channel 4. I think Cassidy hurt himself by not attending. You agree?
Well, it's hard to say. Certainly I think that, like Mary Landrieu said, the audience was a substantial one, and so from that standpoint, not being there, it makes them look cowardly as far as I'm concerned, regardless as to the politics involved. I don't remember at any time has any candidate willingly skipped the debate the week before Channel 4.
Now, remember, 6 years ago, you were critical of Mary Landrieu for not doing more debates with John Kennedy, correct?
Sure, yeah, I was.
6 years ago, it was Mary Landrieu who was playing coy with these debates.
Yeah, I think they ended up having 2 or 3 debates, and you're right. I definitely think so. I did criticize her at the time. Sure, absolutely.
Now, don't you think she's being more agreeable to debates because she's in a more precarious political situation, because she's doing it because she feels like she has to?
No question about that. Yeah. I mean, and that's what I've stated before, and I've written about that. Sure, absolutely. However, I think that excuse me. They agreed upon 5 debates, and I think that Cassidy, whatever decision he made, I think he's being interned by David Vitter and his whole group, who will.
Yeah.
So I think there's a political calculation they made.
David Vitter's actually, you think he's calling the shots in the Cassidy campaign? You think he's the puppet master here?
Yeah, I do. I mean, certainly his staff is very involved in Cassidy's campaign. I don't think it. I mean, I guess it helps Cassidy politically, but I don't know. I have my own feelings about David Vitter.
504-556-9696, and of course, the politics is just going to continue because we're going to have a governor's race, and he's going to be running, and that's going to be a free-for-all next year with David Vitter there. And of course, if he helps get Bill Cassidy elected, I'm sure Bill Cassidy is going to be supporting David Vitter for governor, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I certainly would say so. I'd be surprised if, pardon me, if you didn't. Now, you just never know what happens. I mean, as you remember, Vitter helped John Kennedy when John Kennedy ran for U.S. Senate, and so we'll have to see whether or not John Kennedy actually enters the race.
I remember back in 2008, Bobby Jindal made a campaign commercial for John Kennedy at the very last minute. I mean, the race was pretty much decided for Landrieu, and she was ahead, and Jindal had done nothing. And back then he was more popular, and I think could have helped Kennedy big time. He waited until the very last minute, finally did a commercial, minimal help to Kennedy. This time he's been AWOL. Not even, I guess nobody even wants his endorsement. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, I mean, that's what has been reported, at least. It's been reported that the Republicans do not want him to be around at this point in time, and since he has nothing else to do, he basically is touring the country, especially, of course, the caucus and primary.
Well, this week he's going to be in Kansas, Kentucky, and Florida, from what I understand.
Sure. Yeah.
Florida, a big state as far as the Republican, presidential contest.
Yeah,
so,
and in fairness, the thing is that this is the time that these politicians go on the road and they do what they can do to get their members of the party elected.
And to be fair, Mitch Landrieu, he's not leading New Orleans. He's going to be traveling the state over the next week campaigning for his sister, isn't he?
Right. Exactly. So, but the difference is that, doing it, sort of at the during campaign season and doing it for your entire, career when you're being paid. I'm actually going to write a column about hoping that the legislature, in its wisdom, puts a law together to try to get Jindal to pay back his salary, and to make it retroactive 7 years, or 8 years, and so I think that we've gotten shortchanged.
504-556-9696. Jeff Crouere here. Steve Sabludowsky with us, open line on the program. Steve, let's take some calls.
Sure.
We've been talking about everything from the debate to immigration to Ebola to what's going on with Cheryl Atkinson, the reporter saying her computer was hacked. Talking about fundraising and the Democrats outraising the Republicans by $5 million in this last cycle. And host of other issues, voter ID. A lot of issues coming up this morning. Let's go to the phone calls, and we'll start off this segment with a gentleman well known to our listeners. He's a icon of the left, David Bellinger, a.k.a. the Flaming Liberal. Flaming Liberal, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Jeff, and good morning to Steve. Jeff, when I enrolled in a money and banking course at the University of New Orleans as part of my accounting degree requirements, I had a money and banking course. The professor was Dr. Agapos. The students were required to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal, and occasionally Dr. Agapos would quiz us on an article or a fact mentioned in the Wall Street Journal. Now, unfortunately, Adam is dumbing down the program, and it would probably be too much to request, but I think your listeners should be required to subscribe to at least one major newspaper, and you should quiz them occasionally, because people are simply making up lies and facts, pulling them out of thin air, and they're dumbing down the program. Now, let me give you an example, and let the record show that David Bellinger, the Flaming Liberal, I emailed you my documentation from an article that appeared at NOLA.com. Adam in Pearl River has sent you nothing, and he will send you nothing because he has nothing. He's lying. Adam on this program said today, no doubt as a manifestation of his hatred and ignorance and racism, Adam said that Medicare Advantage could disappear in 3 or 4 months, doctors will drop out, and premiums will skyrocket. Well, Jeff, let me repeat what I explained to you and your listeners yesterday on this program. The $700 billion of cuts to Medicare Advantage is made up by the subsidies paid into Obamacare, and it's also made up, and this was a joint Republican and Democratic proposal. The Republicans put the same thing in their budget. The donut hole is closed, and the Medicare Advantage program, the prescription drug program, so more people on Medicare Advantage, the elderly and disabled, receive more in prescription drug coverage, and the drug providers, the insurance company providers, that $700 billion in part is made up because they're going to fill more prescriptions and they're going to get more subsidies from the government. So everything Adam said is a made-up, pulled out of thin air lie. He's dumbing down the program. And if people don't think Adam is a racist, call David Bellinger in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a tape of Adam saying he does not do business with black-owned businesses, Jeff.
You know, I think that's taken out of context. I don't think he's a racist. And I think this whole Medicare Advantage thing is something that people have been debating. I don't think it's necessarily right to call anybody a liar. People have just different interpretations of it. It came up in the debate last night. That was one of the issues, Flamin' Liberal, that they discussed last night. And Colonel Maness pretty much said the same thing that Adam said. And, you know, Mary Landrieu pretty much said the same thing you said. So those people have their talking points on each side. Steve, you want to make a comment on that?
Nope.
All right, thank you, Flamin' Liberal. 504-556-9696. Frank joins us from Picayune. Hey, Frank, how are you? Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. You know, let me just real fast with Flamin' Liberal. You know, he talks about subsidies from the government. Like the government, you know, prints money. I know they print money, but, you know, but they get money from the taxpayers, and then they print money. I mean, you know, you just can't keep giving. You just can't, you know, keep giving people, you know, to get votes. I mean, you know, it's a mirage, and it's going to collapse one day. You know, he claims he's an economic expert, but I mean, you know, when is this balloon going to pop? You know, keep giving, you know, to people.
Well, that's the worry, and we've had financial experts who say that they're worried about this quantitative easing that has been going on. You know, the Fed pumping in all this money to prop up the stock market. Frank, you have this deficit spending that's going on and the $18 trillion debt. So, yeah, you got people that are sharing those concerns that are experts.
I mean, let me cover two real fast things fast. With, you know, with the election and that, and you know, with Mary Landrieu.
Okay.
And I remember, you know, Archbishop Hannon, you know, in the 90s when she was running, he told the Catholics not to vote for her, but the Catholics still voted for her. But he, you know, the new Archbishop, Amon, he ought to be coming out and telling Catholics.
He won't. Don't hold your breath. He's not going to say anything.
But really, I mean, something's wrong with that, man. Something is wrong with that if you don't do that. At least Hannon, you know, knew that it was immoral to vote for her. You know, I mean, where is Amon at then? Why are people even pay any attention?
Well, the image of him is that he is more liberal than Archbishop Hannon, and that they don't see him taking sort of that kind of a political stand like Hannon did. So,
because, you know, about the debate last night too, and maybe I can get Steve's take on this if you want to talk about it. But anyway, I seen where Maness, you know, he didn't, you know, come back and try to rebuttal with Landrieu said on 2 points real fast. Was Landrieu said that the borders are secure, and Maness let her slide with that. And she also said, what was the other thing that she said? I'm trying to think right now. That oh man, I can't think of it right now. But anyway, let me just say with Maness, I mean, I can't understand. They said that he got 11% of the polls are showing he's got 11%. And Landrieu, Mary loves him. Mary is so happy that he's in there. She was praising him and that he's running and all of that. You know, I would hate to think that he's in cahoots with it, and I ain't going to say that, but some people believe that.
Yeah, some people do, Frank, but I can say, I mean, from my knowledge of him and from my knowledge of the situation, I would say that is false. And I don't see him as being an agent of hers. I see him as being a man who's generally committed to serve the country. He wants to run. He feels like this is his calling. He has been doing this for 18 months. He's not somebody who I think is doing this on direction of Mary Landrieu. And, yeah, she likes the fact that the two of them can go after Cassidy, but she doesn't like what he says about the issues. She doesn't like what he says about her. I mean, he didn't hold back on his criticism of her. I thought he was pretty critical of her across the board last night. Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought he was critical of her for sure. I think that she took issue with some of the statements that he made And so, to me, anybody who thinks that he's a stalking horse for the Landrieux, I think, show me the facts. I don't think that's the case at all. As far as the border issue, my recollection is she didn't say that the border was secure. She said that the border was secure, was more secure than ever before.
Right, that's what she said.
She said that, and again, she is in charge of appropriations for Homeland Security, and she said that she has approved, I think, up to $50 billion.
And she said, talk about smart fencing, where they're able to distinguish between deers and people, and she's been in favor of that. And so, yeah, she talked about that aspect of it. But I think what Frank is saying is the colonel should have shot back and responded. I don't know if they were allowed him to do that because of the format of the debate. I think they had to go to another question. But he seemed to be pretty passionate that the border was wide open. I mean, that was the view that I got from him.
A lot of it is politics. And,
all right. Hang on, Steve. We've got to take a brief time out. We'll come back with more Steve Sabludowsky, more of your phone calls. Jeff Crouere here at Ringside WGSO. We'll be right back.
The tradition continues. Ken Trahan inviting you to join us for the 20th year of Ken Trahan's Original Prep Football Report on WGSO 990 AM, WGSO.com, SportsNova.com, and our statewide network. It's Countdown to the Original with Ro Brown and Henry Rando at Bears Po' Boys at Gennaro's on Causeway and Metairie Road before Rick Daly and I go from 7 to 11 with reports from top games, expert analysis, and frequent scoreboards. Catch Friday Night Football with Ed Daniels and JT Curtis at 11. That's the original Friday nights from 6 to midnight on WGSO 990 AM, WGSO.com, and SportsNova.com.
Face many questions and uncertainties in life. This is Ralph Leopold. Join me for Your Money, Your Life.
Tuesdays at 5 on WGSO 990 AM.
And we can talk about it.
Frisbee's is a spot to catch all of your favorite sporting events. We have 2 70-inch TVs. I also have TVs on our deck while sitting waterside. You'll never miss a play. Hi, Jonathan Brisbee. Whether it's at LSU Saturday or Saints Sunday or the Pelicans on the hardwood, we have you covered with drinks, food specials, and an atmosphere that will score every time. Frisbee's is open every day but Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. for lunch, dinner, cocktails, and private parties. Check us out online at frisbeesrestaurant.com. Frisbee, 7400 Lakeshore Drive. Come as you are.
Hi, this is Jim Spyro. Join me every Wednesdays from 5 to 6 p.m. on 990 WGSO or WGSO.com. Remember, your influence counts. Use it. See you then.
Coming up tonight on WLAE-TV, at 7, get the latest on advances in medicine on Doctors New Orleans. At 8, learn more about education in our city on Our Schools, Our Future. And at 9, laws and legal matters are discussed on John Redmond, Power of Attorney. It's only on WLAE New Orleans Public Television. Watch us on Cox Channel 14, Charter Channel 11 and 711, and AT&T and Satellite Channel 32.
Tim McNally here. The Dine, Wine, and Spirit Show is daily, 3 to 5, discussing wines and restaurants and spirits right here at WGSO.
It's another edition of Ringside Politics with a Punch and Jeff Crouere. We're on the air right now. The topics are hot. The host is cool. And we're waiting for you to shed some sunlight on our vast listening audience. Call Jeff Crouere now at 556-9696.
Steve Sabludowsky is with us, publisher of BayouBuzz.com. We had a very funny Politics with a Punch show last week that was a lot of fun. Good to be with everybody for that event. And, of course, I'll have a new column at BayouBuzz.com later on today. Steve, whenever we have elections, things are busy at BayouBuzz.com. Why don't you tell our listeners a few of the things that they can check out there as we are in our final week of election season here?
Oh, sure. Well, number one, they can check out the video that we do in connection with this particular broadcast. And certainly if they missed any part of it, they'll be able to see it. It's being broadcast or video by BayouBuzz. We have articles up there about the election, a lot of articles. I'm going to be writing an article myself, specifically talking, or at least a column specifically referring to, again, the issue of Obamacare and pre-existing conditions. I really would like for your audience to educate me on what will happen once, say, Rob Maness and everybody repeals and pull out the roots of Obamacare, and what's going to happen to pre-existing conditions once it's assuming it's appealed, and it's not going to be, but assuming it's appeal, what will happen? Well,
that was brought up last night.
I'd like some education there, because I think they're going to be very surprised and disappointed.
Did you hear the Colonel's answer to that question last night?
No, I did, yeah, and he didn't answer my question, at least.
Okay.
Look, we can all talk about theory. Yeah, when I get elected, then I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I mean, they'll both do that. The point I have made before on this program and elsewhere, and I'm still waiting for answers. I hope that Bill Cassidy and Mary Landrieu and everybody gives answers to this. But, once you kill somebody, it's dead. It's dead.
You're talking about Obamacare being killed?
Oh, yeah. Once you repeal it, it's dead. And that means there are no benefits such as pre-existing conditions, portability. The insurance then returns to where it was in terms of being aligned with and dependent upon employment. It may take a year, it may take forever to put any of those benefits back into place, which are very, very popular.
Well, I mean, the thing about taking time is very true, because this whole thing has taken years to unroll.
Sure.
And now we're still not seeing the full implementation of Obamacare as you know.
Right. And you're right, and I think that
and you know how a lot of this has been pushed back to after the election.
Exactly, and hopefully some of it, and hopefully a lot of it is pushed back. As far as I'm concerned, in terms of the restrictions on the small business people complaining, and in terms of too many regulations, and I think those are legitimate, and I think that we should take a really hard look at what was passed and fix it. And it may not.
So you say mend it, don't end it.
Well, I think that, again, once it is repealed, it's dead.
Okay.
And I think that Bill Cassidy, Maness, and Landrieu should address that.
All right. Well, maybe we'll see it in the last debate. There's just one more debate or two more debates, Steve?
That's one. That's tomorrow night.
That's the last one.
Yeah.
Because they said there were 5 debates, but last night was just the 3rd debate, wasn't it? TV debate?
Right. But they've had I know that Landrieu and Maness were at debate in Kenner City Hall.
The Alliance debate.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, 504-556, and again, Cassidy didn't show up for that either, I don't think.
No, did not.
Yeah, I just think that's a mistake, I really do. All right, let's get back to the phone calls.
Sure,
Glenn joins us from Gretna. Hey, Glenn, how are you? Good morning.
Hey, Jeff, how you doing? I've heard some people call up about Amendment number 6. Can I read this paragraph, this argument against it?
Sure, go ahead.
The facts from PAR and PDR. It says, Orleans already has the highest general and special millage cap of any parish in the state. Doubling the special millage cap would open the door for the New Orleans City Council to raise taxes, while the amendment itself does not raise taxes. A current or future city council or mayor, sooner or later, is sure to press for higher millages. Once the cap is raised, New Orleans, prospectively, will become a more expensive and less competitive city for business development and home ownership. Higher taxes are not the best path to post-Katrina recovery. The city would do better to constrain spending and waste. And the problem I have, Jeff, is Landrieu does this. He puts the fire department and the police department on it, and people preying on them, acting like people are voting to, help them out. But really what he's doing is, if it was just to do that, I would vote for it. If he would say this can only go to the firemen, it can only go to the police. But no, he has to put this other thing where he can raise taxes on the rest of the general public and raise property taxes, which is outrageous. So
well,
I'm definitely voting no. So
let me just give you
Louisiana, information and no information voters. I just read the argument against it.
Glenn, we have an expert from the BGR on our program tomorrow. We're going to be delving into it at 8:30, so I invite you to listen and call in and help us get the word out about this thing, because I share your concerns about it. I really do. And I'm going to try to get this BGR expert tomorrow to really give me good arguments to vote for it. So we'll see. And I think you raised some legitimate concerns. So I appreciate the call. We've got 14 amendments on the ballot, Steve, so people that need to do their homework before they vote. And we're trying to help them by getting the information out about them. And that's tomorrow. BGR will be with us at 8:30. 504-556-9696. Let's get back to the phone calls. And next joining us, Marion and Metro. We have limited time, but go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, the lightning round. Listen, I don't vote for any constitutional amendment that is protecting a certain fund in the Constitution. Higher education and Medicare have been suffering for years because Jindal did not call a constitutional convention or mini convention to get our funding straight. That isn't what I called, though. I wanted to mention, when was the last time a New Orleans mayor was ever a serious candidate for governor?
I will give that some thought and respond to that after the break, and then get Steve's comments on that. It's been a while. Appreciate it, Marion. Quick time out. Let's get a news update. We'll be back. WGSO 990 AM, New Orleans, Louisiana. 60 years of speaking easy. Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
Can you do another segment?
Yeah, please. Thank you.
All right, great.
Okay.
This is the Blaze Radio News. I'm John DeMaster. Emory University Hospital in Atlanta releasing nurse Amber Vinson after declaring her Ebola-free. She's one of 2 nurses who pick it up while caring for Thomas Duncan, who later dies from Ebola. A press conference is being planned for this afternoon to talk about her release. A 5-year-old in the Bronx also being cleared after being tested for Ebola, that test coming back negative. And some members of our military in isolation. We get details from the Blaze Radio's Robin Walensky.
New guidelines for members of our military who just left an Ebola hot zone in Africa. They are in isolation in Italy for 3 weeks until it's guaranteed they're Ebola-free. The rule's much more stringent than the CDC imposes for doctors and nurses heading back to this country.
A jury convicting the college friend of the accused Boston bomber Jakar Tsarnaev, Robel Philippos, charged with lying to investigators. This is news on the Blaze Radio Network.
Everyone is making the switch to the Blaze to make it their source for the truth. Why not make it your source for the truth? Make theblaze.com your homepage for news that the other outlets...
From ABC 26, the Conifer, the Kenner Star, KTV, City Business, and WLAE, it's WGSO's own Jeff Crouere.
All right. One more segment with our friend, Ringside All-Star publisher, Bayoubuzz.com, Steve Sabludowsky. We're also going to be hearing from a representative of Humana. Later on, we're talking about Medicare Advantage, because that's been an issue that has come up here in the program, also come up in the debate last night. We'll try to get some clarity on what's going on with Medicare Advantage. Right now, though, Steve Sabludowsky with us, and Marion from Metairie had called in, and we've asked Marion to hang with us and see if he could restate his question as we kick off this hour. And Marion, welcome back, sir.
I guess it's because I'm tired of the debates, I'm tired of the election, and I'm going off on a slight tangent.
Okay.
Mitch Landrieu and not Mary.
Okay.
I've heard too much about Mitch as a serious candidate for governor, and I simply don't buy it. He's too liberal for this state. He's too New Orleans for the rest of the state. And I ask, when was the last time any New Orleans mayor was actually a serious candidate? I go back to 1960.
Chet Morrison.
Chet Morrison
Yeah.
was thumped by John McKisson. But I think the one thing, my segue is...
Now, Fitzmaurice, I would say this. Fitzmaurice, who was, if I'm not mistaken, a
city council person
in New Orleans at one point, was almost elected governor in 1979. He was lieutenant governor. And we've had New Orleans folks as lieutenant governor. Of course, Landrieu was lieutenant governor.
Yes, I agree.
Plus treasurer, too.
One of the things I picked up from the John Barry book, Rising Tide, was the historic animosity that the rest of this state has for New Orleans. They just look at New Orleans as, I think, a different part of the country from the rest of the state.
Now,
I don't think there's ever been much support for New Orleans, not only New Orleans candidates, but for New Orleans issues. This past legislature shot down almost everything Mitch Landrieu asked for, except for that one thing on the Constitution Amendment ballot, the right to have a vote for the taxes. That's the one thing the legislature gave New Orleans. Yes, you can have an election to tax yourself.
Yeah.
I mentioned John Barry. I want to say this. As far as the whole Ebola issue,
yeah,
I go back now almost 100 years to the 1918, 1920 influenza epidemic right after World War I. It was, of course, a huge problem then. John Barry also wrote a book called The Great Influenza, and I recommend it to anyone who's interested in the general topic, which I think is very timely now.
All right. Yeah, and John Barry's a great author, and certainly someone who I really respect for, his ability to write. I don't know if I agree with everything he says politically, but certainly got a lot of talent.
Into the whole issue of coastal restoration and also the levee board lawsuits, what the oil companies called legacy lawsuits.
Right. Hey, let's get Steve's view, Marion. Appreciate the call. The first point is about New Orleans mayor Chet Morrison, of course. Jimmy Fitzmaurice, New Orleanian, came close. Dave Treen, a Metairie guy, represented Jefferson Parish, got elected governor. But as far as a New Orleans mayor, hardcore New Orleanian, you've had Susie Terrell come close as far as the Senate. You had Mary Landrieu get elected senator. You've had other positions, but as far as governor, no. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's true. The question is whether or not there's this animosity between northern and central and south Louisiana, particularly New Orleans. And I would say that it used to be worse. I think the internet technology has sort of brought the state together tremendously, in fact. But yeah, I believe that there's a certain insensitivity to issues dealing with New Orleans, and so these are things that we're going to have to deal with. One of the major issues, quite frankly, that is going through my mind as I decide exactly who I'm going to vote for. I am bothered by the fact that if Landrieu were to lose, that we would not have that clout, that seniority. I will tell you that when after Katrina, she was the point person. She was also the point person after the biggest water issue in the high insurance premium. She brought that to the table, and she was able to get that pass. We'd be giving up a lot. Now, does that mean that she's best for Louisiana and for other issues? I think that's the debate.
Well, let me just make a point about that. If Republicans take over the Senate, her clout will be diminished.
It'll be diminished, but it was certainly. I mean, again, she is
not going to be chair of anything.
Well, she won't chair, but she'll be second, which is far better. I mean, if Cassidy were to win and Vitter, and this is something I mentioned quite a long time ago, and Vitter becomes governor, and then we have two rookies in there. That's not a good scenario. It really isn't.
We got Steve Scalise, who's number 3 in the House. You got a powerful member of the House who's in Republican leadership.
So suppose we get rid of Scalise. I mean, why don't we just do that? It makes a lot of sense. We're going to get rid of Landrieu. Let's get rid of Scalise. We don't need the power. We don't need that stroke.
Well, I mean, I think Scalise is in line with his district as far as the issues, Steve. The reason Landrieu was in trouble.
No, that's what I just said.
Like Obamacare that the people don't like. I mean, that's why she's in trouble. Not just the issue of power, but it's the issue of where she votes. That's her problem.
And that is a problem, and that's exactly what I'm saying, okay? And that's what I think has to be weighed, at least in terms of my mind, within my mind. She did vote on some things that that she is, I think, is taking the blame for, and she is accepting the blame. I think, although some things she's not accepting the blame because she thinks she did the right thing.
As she pointed out,
that being Obamacare.
One of the panelists pointed out that
she's right.
One of the panelists pointed out last night, Obama's got a 32% approval rating in Louisiana. She's voted for him 97% of the time. That's a problem.
Well, she also said, We can
talk about cloud, we can talk about chairmanship, but I mean, her votes are not in line with the people.
Again, I think those are two of the major issues in this election, and so I think that if we have another hurricane and we don't have somebody in there, I can tell you that in my mind, David Vitter was pitiful during Katrina, pitiful. And so in fact, because of David Vitter, we had to pay, I think, 10% back, amounts that no other state had to pay back. Okay, and quite frankly, thanks to Landrieu, okay, we got that debt extinguished. So
what? Just because Katrina, and we're 9 years later, we're still bringing up Katrina. I mean, we're still living through Katrina because of Katrina is another reason to vote for her, Steve. I mean,
Jeff, I'm conceding.
9 years of voting against her people because of Katrina. That's, I mean, come on.
No, it's a present.
We've already had an election since then. She's already reelected in 2008 based on Katrina.
I understand that. It's a present power of Steve Scalise, and I'm very happy that he's in the position that he is. I think that's great for Louisiana. I think that's great for this area, okay? And I think he's a wonderful guy, too.
But he's got the advantage of being with the people on the issues.
And that's right. He has that advantage, and I think that's part of the reason, quite frankly, that Landrieu flip-flopped on the issue of Harry Reid.
On everything. She flip-flopped
on everything.
No, flopping all over the place.
Well, I think Maness did a pretty good job dodging some of the questions too, so it wasn't just a solo.
Well, I mean, when they asked him about leadership, he said we need a clean house. So
well, that's easy to say. Anybody can say that. Okay, I mean
he didn't say he was going to be voting for Mitch McConnell. So Landrieu said in the past she's going to vote for Harry Reid. She wouldn't say it last night. That's another flip flop, right?
Yeah, and I consider that to be a flip-flop. No question about it. On the other hand, let me just say this. I think that she is beginning to realize that Harry Reid is, you don't want to blame Obama, you don't want to blame Harry Reid. But you want to get somebody in there in the top of the leadership, like Bill Clinton was, who is
to realize
more of a moderate, more conservative.
Years. She's just realizing this after 18 years? I mean, how much more
she may lose.
How much time does she need to realize?
Jeff, and she may lose, and that's going to be, and that will,
let's get some of these calls in.
Wait, Jeff, let me just ask you a question. You're going to say that her presence, whether or not she's second in charge or first in charge of those committees, you're going to say that doesn't matter at all?
I'm going to say this. What matters more than the power, more than the pork, okay, is the fact that she's not listening to us. And she can say, I'm giving you the money that you need. I'm giving you all this because, we deserve this, and I'm up there fighting for you. But she's not listening. She's not doing, her boss is not Harry Reid, it's not Barack Obama, it's us. And we're telling her to vote one way. She is not doing it. For that, she needs to go. She needs to be fired. She needs to be on her way to work in the private sector. She's been there too long, Steve, 35 years in office. That's obscene.
Okay, so it's funny that you call it pork. During Katrina and after Katrina and after Isaac.
It's been 9 years after Katrina.
After Isaac, would you have called that pork? The $55 billion, is that pork?
What is pork is a lot of other states larding on to relief and getting gymnasiums and getting parks and getting all kinds of other things because of how they do business up there in Washington. It's not just us that benefited from all these relief programs. There was billions of waste in there. People that are suffering from hurricanes need relief, Steve. But you've got to admit what they do in Washington is broken. What they do in Washington is wasteful. What they do in Washington is fraudulent. And I'm not going to defend any of that. I'm not going to defend Mary Landrieu and bringing home the bacon because in that bacon is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse.
Okay, so let's not bring home any money at all then, Jeff.
No, let's get some new people up there. Okay, let's get rid of these folks. And let's have a whole new system.
A whole new system. So we don't go to war with
term limits. We need term limits. We need people serving and then getting the hell out of there and coming home.
Generals. Let's get rid of the generals in our military. We don't need them. Let's go to colonels and privates.
To generals.
No, I mean,
people aren't putting their lives on the line for the country, okay?
My point is, you don't think experience matters.
These people are lining their pockets.
Take it across the line, and let's get rid of the people in charge of the military.
These people are lining their pockets.
Doesn't make any difference.
These people are getting paid almost $200,000. They got perks out the wazoo. They're sitting up there to be lobbyists and make millions after they serve.
Change that system.
They need to go. Okay, and we don't need to elect someone for a fourth term. That's my view. We're going to get some calls in right now, and let's go to James in Metairie, who's with us. What's going on, James? Good morning.
Well, Jeff, good morning to everybody. I want to say that Cassidy's bitter connection is very, very troubling to me, and it's about as troubling as Maness associating with Tony Perkins, the guy who gave a speech to the Louisiana chapter of the Council of Conservative Citizens a few years ago. That's the group that helped battle immigration in the South. Maness really needs to watch out who he associates with. And as far as Cassidy, he's no longer Dr. Cassidy. He's Duckster Cassidy. Mary Landrieu came up with the line of the debate last night when she said she hopes Maness gets into the runoff with her because he's more likely to show up for a debate than Cassidy would. Now, Jeff, I want to praise the Tea Party for coming up with the solution to an age-old human problem, chronic insomnia. People who have a serious problem falling asleep, well, folks, we have a new solution to that. It's called listening to Rob Maness for about 5 minutes. It's guaranteed to put you to sleep, even if you drink about 20 cups of strong black coffee. They ought to make CDs of Maness speaking and give those out, provide them to Medicare people who can't fall asleep, because that guy is,
Well, it's funny that you say that, but I thought he was more animated last night than I've ever seen him. I mean, I thought he showed more emotion last night than he has in other debates. You didn't think so?
I agree with you, Jeff, but the guy is Colonel Snoozer and Colonel Stamenek, as far as I'm concerned.
That's cool.
In fairness, I don't think that. I mean, so what? So what? I don't think it's a good reason to disagree with somebody if you talk about the issues.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons to disagree with them and to agree with them.
And I'll tell you, Harry Reid is a snoozer. Mitch McConnell's a snoozer. I think a lot of these people are snoozers up there.
Absolutely.
All right, James, appreciate it. Steve, let's take another time out. We'll come back and wrap it up. We'll squeeze in some more of these calls, 504-556-9696. Then at 10:30, we're going to be joined by a representative of Humana, going to be talking about this whole Medicare Advantage issue that has come up in this debate, and also all over the campaign season. We'll try to get some clarity as to what's going on with Medicare Advantage. That's coming up at 10:30. And then 10:45, our good friend William Wallace is going to check in. We'll spend a little bit of time with him. He's back on the airwaves tonight with his program. And we'll listen to a speech that was given 50 years ago, still relevant today. We'll be right back.
Everyone knows that the city of New Orleans has the best food in the world, and obviously we're known for the best music in the world. But we're also known for producing some of the best coffee in the world, and no one does this better than New Orleans Roast Coffee. And I should know. I'm Felton Jones, the roast master of the city's well-known PJ's Coffee and New Orleans Roast Coffee, the city's newest and freshest brand of coffee on the market. At New Orleans Roast, we put an emphasis on quality and freshness in every cup. You can find all of our great creations at the city's finest restaurants. Also look for it at your favorite local grocery store.
Hi, all you outdoorsmen. Join me, J.C. Smith.
And me, Tim Z.
For the Bayou Sportsman Show, Thursday nights at 7 p.m. here on WGSO 990 AM and at WGSO.com.
After only 5 weeks, I achieved the best fitness score of my entire military career. And at age 50,
my blood pressure's lower, I'm sleeping better, I'm going sleeveless for the first time in years.
My back's been in better shape than it was 20 years ago, which has been great for my golf game.
What do these people have in common? They all work out 30 minutes a week at Kelly Personal Training.
30 minutes a week, I've got more strength and energy than when I used to spend hours at the gym.
Our doctor-endorsed, nationally recognized workout is performed on medically designed weight machines, proven to increase strength, flexibility, and boost your metabolism in less time.
Thanks to Kelly Personal Training, my last bone scan came back normal.
It used to take me 30 minutes to get off the floor after playing with my grandson. Now I just get up.
Anyone who's never gotten the results they wanted from a gym membership or at-home exercising owes it to themselves to give Kelly Personal Training a call.
504-891-1203. Get your first 2 no-obligation workouts free. 891-1203 or visit kellypersonaltraining.com.
Hi, this is Marcel Lashover. Join me every Friday from 5 to 6 for Show Me the Money Show on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com.
Hi, I'm Nikki Reyes. Join me on The Nikki Reyes Show every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Consider it your happy hour, only on WGSO 990 AM.
If you take your freedom for granted, someone may take your freedom. It won't be here tomorrow, but Ringside Politics with a Punch will be. Give Jeff Crouere a call now at 556-9696.
All right, limited time in this segment. We'll try to squeeze in as many as we can. 504-556-9696. Steve Sabludowsky with us. It's BayouBuzz.com. And our good friend Nikki Reyes just leaving the studio. Always great to see Nikki over here. What a pleasure. She's brightening up the studio here. All right, Steve, let's get back to the issues. And next up we have Jim from Uptown. What's going on, Jim? Good morning.
Stephen, look, you ought to thank Jeff for having you on a regular basis. He does a lot for you. Second of all, I'd like to talk about the Landrieu situation. Landrieu has been in Washington for so long. She's worked her way up this committee, of which she really, although she may be the head of the committee, she really has no stroke, because when it comes right down to it, and we're trying to get the pipeline across to America, to Louisiana. She can't pull it through with her own president and her own Senate. But she can't get it pulled through. Now, as far as Katrina goes and her bringing all this money down here for Katrina, don't forget that we had a Republican president, a Republican House back then, and that's why we had so much money down here, not just because of Mary Landrieu, because Mary Landrieu brings nothing to the table. Why don't you tell me what she brings to a table anywhere in this country of value?
All right.
And then I'll vote for her.
All right, Jim from New Orleans. Steve?
Jim, I don't know how to answer your question because anything I say you're not going to accept. Again, I think that you should have an open mind and in terms of and not just discount everything about a particular person, but you're not going to do it. So why respond?
504-556-9696. Thank you, Jim in New Orleans. From Uptown, let's go from Uptown to Metairie and check in with Sherry. What's happening, Sherry? Good morning.
Well, here's hoping I can get this in. Regarding the election, I'm not so much concerned with the nuts and bolts as I am with the overview of things. Not too much analysis. I think we need to keep our eye on the big picture, and I think it's never been more important for people to turn out and vote because we must change directions in the country. It's like Michael Savage and Ann Coulter and a bunch of other people have said, vote Republican no matter what so that we can change directions. And remember that these Democrats have no ethics or morals. They're sociopathic. They're not about people. They're taking us over the cliff. So we've got to change directions, and people have got to vote Republican. That's my message. And as far as Vitter goes, I hope he is pulling some strings, because if he is, it's because he doesn't want Mary Landrieu back in office, So what do you think of that?
All right. Steve, any response?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that that's part of the reason they certainly didn't have a good relationship. Never had a good relationship, and so there's nothing wrong with that.
They grew up blocks from each other, which is sort of interesting. The Vitter family, the Landrieu family, very close to where they grew up in Uptown area. But you're right, not a lot of solidarity there, and that's one of the motivating factors for Vitter. And as far as changing direction, I agree, Sherry. We need to change direction. I don't like the way we're going.
And those voting machine irregularities, that's no accident. I tell you, I don't think it is. I don't believe in going.
Mm-hmm. Let me pass this on to Steve. We talked earlier, Steve, about some voting irregularities in Maryland. Some people are pointing out that they tried to vote Republican and showed up Democrat. In Cook County, I think a similar thing happened. In St. Bernard, we had a voter who said that his machine was not allowing him to vote Republican. So I just found it interesting in 3 cases of alleged voter irregularities. All these are cases where people trying to vote Republican, it shows up Democrat. I'm waiting for the report about those who, are trying to vote Democrat, yet it shows up Republican. Have you heard of any of those incidents?
No, I haven't heard anything. No.
Okay.
And if that's the case, let's find out why.
Yeah. All right, Sherry, any final words?
No, I'm just laughing because we know why.
Mm-hmm.
We know why.
All right.
Democrats. Okay.
Good to hear from you, as always, my dear. That's Sherry in Metairie. Let's keep it in Metairie and bring on John. What's happening, John? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Steve's worried about Mary Landrieu's supposedly power in Washington and everything. Well, he has to understand that when, and I'm saying when, the Republicans take over the Senate, you're going to have a lot of new Republicans in there, and they're going to be appointed to the chairmanships of the various committees, okay? And there's a good chance that whoever it would be from Louisiana, or either one of the 2 gentlemen, could be appointed to a chairmanship of a committee. So he's worried about something that's immaterial. It's what she has done. And he couldn't answer the question before as to
I can answer a question. I don't want to answer a question if somebody. No, I don't want to answer a question if it's a bogus question. I mean, he was setting me up.
I don't think it's a bogus question, Steve, to ask what she's. I mean, what are the tangible? Mm-hmm.
Okay, is that the question that you're asking me?
Yeah, that's what.
Okay, because that's not the same question that the gentleman asked me.
Well, sure. What has she done? What has she accomplished? The same question.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Steve, what would you say would be her top 3 accomplishments?
The top 3 accomplishments, I would say that she was greatly responsible for changing the Biggers Water Act. I think that all of South Louisiana would have, and let's give credit to Cassidy in terms of what he did in the House. But I think that that she was able to get the administration to focus, to get and ask Michael Hecht of GNO Inc. as to whether or not she was, because he was in charge of that coalition. So ask. Secondly, I think that she was greatly responsible in getting the Katrina money, and that money.
That was Republicans.
I'm sorry?
Republicans were in charge then.
You had a Republican president back then, Steve, right? I mean, don't you think, does George W. Bush get any credit for that? Or?
Yeah, sure. Yes, I think that George W. Bush gets credit, but if you do look back, I think that the money was very slow. It took over 2 years for the city to get any money, and so there were a lot of issues there. People had couldn't get money to come back into the city.
All right, hang on, John. Let him respond, and then I'll come back to you. Real quick.
And thirdly, I think that the money that we're getting in terms of the oil, from the coast, I think that's the first time we're shared in that. And I remember the work that she did.
Okay.
Now,
let me give John a chance to respond, and then we got to roll. Steve, John, go ahead quickly.
Yeah. Whenever you talk about catastrophic instances in this country, okay, money flows, whether it's tornadoes, whether it's floods in other areas.
I don't know. Bill Cassidy voted against the money.
Hang on, Steve. Let him respond, so then we can come back to you.
So to bring up Katrina, okay, is just here again immaterial, because whenever you have those kind of instances in this country, money flows to those areas. And fortunately, it flowed to us like it should have.
Yeah.
But
okay.
You can't use that as an example.
Well, the federal money flowed after Rita. It flowed after Sandy. It flowed after other natural disasters. That's usually the case. The federal government comes in, and a lot of money is spent on relief. My point,
Jeff. I mean,
we've had a lot of waste in this supposed relief. And that if Mary Landrieu had been replaced by a Republican in the election before that in 2002, if Susie Terrell was the senator, she would have been fighting for Hurricane Katrina relief too. I mean, I think, as you said, the House members were fighting for relief for the state. I mean, that's what you should be doing. I mean, helping your state that's been devastated by a disaster. But I don't think we can continue saying we got to keep reelecting her because she brought money to the state after the hurricane. I just think there's so many other issues that I think are going to be critical factors in this election.
Jeff, all I can say is this. Okay, can I make one comment?
Yeah, and then we got to roll. Go ahead. Quick comment, 30 seconds.
Okay, Bill Cassidy voted against, and the rest of the Republicans in this state voted against the last hurricane money. Now, he says, well, there was a lot of pork, and so be it. So let me just say this.
A lot of pork.
Right now, we have no guarantee at all. I mean, at all. If we have another storm, we have no guarantee at all that we will have any money. We won't have another Katrina.
One thing you've got to answer for, Steve, is that our coast is still eroding, and she's been up there 18 years. I haven't seen any real advancement in coastal restoration.
And she was the one who
bears some responsibility.
She was the one who got us money for that.
We got to roll. We're out of time. Got another guest coming on right now. Good segment. Steve Sabludowsky, Bayoubuzz.com. Thank you. Let's take care of some business. We're going to be talking to you.